Well, you know, many years ago in the early 1980s, when I was doing research for DPT A Shot in the Dark, which was the first book that was published in 1985, that really looked at the functioning of the mass vaccination system in America and pointed out the flaws, using the pertussis vaccine as an example. Why do you have this vaccine that's so toxic still on the market? Back then, I really realized that if I was going to be a critic of vaccine policy and of vaccine safety, I needed to also learn about how the government works, how vaccine regulation and policy making works. And I decided to come to the table and try to work with federal health officials on committees and at the Institute of Medicine, et cetera, so that I could really understand clearly what it is that was the problem here, why the suffering of the people who had complications after vaccination wasn't being taken seriously by government officials, who were basically dismissing these complications as being either the price of doing business, that is, some people are expendable for the greater good, or the fact that there was great denial that what was happening was connected to the vaccination. And I think those are the two things that we're really grappling with, this sort of what must not be, cannot be attitude, that when something bad happens after vaccination, it couldn't possibly be due to the vaccine. Or, well, if it does happen, it's so rare, and that in some can be, sacrificed for the rest. Those two things are what I've been grappling with. And I have warned them over the years. You must listen to the people. If you ignore what the people are saying, you're going to pay a huge price down the road. And what I think we're seeing playing out real time right now is that the response by government officials to this outbreak of H1N1 swine flu, their response has not matched the reality of the situation. They knew pretty much last summer from the southern experience with H1N1 swine flu that this influenza was not as lethal as they first said it was going to be. It was not mutating into a more lethal form. It was mild for most people. And when they found that out, they did not adjust their strategy. You know, it's one thing to be prepared for a worst case scenario. It's another thing when you don't adjust your strategy when it is not a worst case scenario. And so now they're stuck with this situation where they have oversold the dangers. And they have all this vaccine, billions of dollars that have been billions. And they have a situation where the people, after all, we have a much more educated population now. We have a lot of people who have gone to college who are perfectly capable of analyzing the news, who are perfectly capable of doing research on the internet into the medical literature, which is out there for everyone to analyze. And they are seeing that there is this disconnect between the reality of the situation and the government's response. The government needs to take responsibility for not adjusting. You know, the people are smarter than the health officials are giving them credit for being. And even the healthcare workers, as you know, at our conference in the first week in October, there were about a third of the audience was healthcare workers who had never questioned vaccines before, who are now asking questions because not only were they being forced in New York by an edict coming out of the state health department to use H1N1 vaccines or be fired, but they also were seeing that there was this disconnect and they wanted to know more. And they left our conference educated and quite committed to defending the informed consent ethic in medicine when it comes to vaccination. And that really is MVIC's message. Become an informed healthcare consumer. Become informed about vaccines and infectious diseases. Know your medical history. It's all about an interaction between the host and the vaccines. And it's all about what is health. You talk so magnificently about what is health. It is not just a matter of controlling infectious disease, about preventing all experience with infection. In fact, infection in childhood may play a role in the maturation of the immune system. It may play a necessary role in the immune system learning how to function normally and robustly. You know, again, I come back to this question. We have so many children now who are chronically disabled and chronically ill with all kinds of inflammatory conditions, from asthma to diabetes. Autism has an immune component to it as well. A lot of these children who are autistic and learning disabled and have ADHD have immune dysfunction, severe allergies, etc. We need to find out now whether or not all the vaccines that we're giving our children are setting them up, at least an expanding minority of them up, for chronic brain and immune system dysfunction. And I think that the work that you have done in the last decade and a half and that you're doing now to try to raise the consciousness of the people about asking this question, what is health? Health is about more than just preventing infection. It is about, it's a lifestyle, it's about eating right, it's about lowering stress, it's about getting enough sleep, it's about looking at all the pharmaceutical products that we all have been conditioned to take, more and more pharmaceutical products, but it doesn't seem to be helping us. It seems to be compromising our health. And I think, you know, we've talked many times, you and I, about this paradigm shift that's occurring. We are in the middle of a major paradigm shift, an awakening by the people that all is not well with our health. And we need to take a look, re-examine the way we're living and the pharmaceutical products that we're consuming, including vaccines, and take a more balanced approach to the way that we're living.